And as she bent over to kiss the young man's lips, a glow emitted from her mouth into his, and his eyes fluttered wide open. Hi bestie! If you're watching to this point, please subscribe. Turn on your post notifications to always be notified when I post a new video. And please don't skip my ads, they really help this channel. Share and back to the story. Uyeni's early life was one filled with the warmth and love of her parents. Her father Okon was a well-respected farmer, known for his kindness, and her mother Ejiro was the village best weaver. Her hands created intricate patterns that adorned the village marketplace. Together, they lived in a modest but cozy hut on the edge of the village, surrounded by lush farmland. In the evenings, as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into a palette of oranges and pinks, Okon would hoist little Uyeni onto his shoulders and walk through the fields. "One day, my daughter," he would say, "these fields will be yours. You will grow the tallest yams and the sweetest cassava." Uyeni would giggle, her small hands clutching her father's head, feeling on top of the world. Ejiro would often hum lullabies to Uyeni as she wove her beautiful patterns. Uyeni loved watching her mother's skilled hands at work, the rhythmic movements almost hypnotic. "Mama, would you teach me to weave like you?" Uyeni would ask, her eyes wild with wonder. Ejiro would smile warmly and nod. "Of course, my daughter. When you are ready, your hands will create wonders just like this." Life was peaceful, a perfect blend of hard work, love, and simple pleasures. The villagers often remarked on how blessed the family was, and it was said that the gods had smiled upon Okon and Ejiro. But that smile faded the day they attended a wedding in a neighboring village. Unbeknownst to them, the village was in throes of a deadly plague. When Okon and Ejiro returned to Obajana, they were not the same. Their bodies, once strong and full of life, were covered in angry red pus. Word spread quickly, and fear took root. The villagers, once friendly, began to avoid them. "They brought the plague upon us," they whispered. Even the elders, who were supposed to be the voice of wisdom, turned their backs. "Stay away from them," they warned. "Their presence will bring only death." Ejiro and Okon were treated like lepers, shunned by everyone they had once called friends. The pain of isolation was unbearable, and the weight of the villagers' rejection crushed their spirits. Okon, who once stood tall and proud, now walked with his shoulders hunched. The light in his eyes dimmed. Ejiro, whose laughter once filled their home, grew silent, her heart heavy with sorrow. Meanwhile, Uyeni remained at her uncle's house, unaware of the tragedy unfolding. She often asked about her parents, but her uncle's wife Adana would dismiss her with a wave of the hand. "They are busy, child. Stop asking so many questions." The truth was far more sinister. Adana had never wanted Uyeni in her home. She saw the little girl as a burden, a reminder of the plague that had tainted her husband's family. So, when the news came that Okon and Ejiro had succumbed to their depression and illness, Adana saw an opportunity. One evening, as the sun set and the shadows grew long, Adana approached Uyeni. "Come, little one," she said, her voice laced with false sweetness. "I will take you to see your parents. They are waiting for you in the forest." Uyeni's eyes lit up. "Really, auntie? I miss them so much." "Yes, my dear, follow me." Adana led Uyeni deep into the forest, far beyond the familiar paths. The trees grew thicker, and the underbrush tangled around their feet. As the night descended, the forest became an airy place, filled with the sounds of nocturnal creatures and the rustling of leaves. "Stay here," Adana said suddenly, her voice now cold and devoid of emotion. "Your parents will find you." With that, she turned and left, leaving Uyeni alone in the dark. Fear gripped Uyeni's heart as she watched her aunt disappear into the shadows. She called out, but her voice was swallowed by the night. She was alone. For days, Uyeni wandered the forest, hungry, cold, and scared. Her small feet were cut and bruised from the rough area, and her once bright spirit was dimmed by exhaustion. Eventually, her strength gave out, and she collapsed near a stream, her body too weak to move. When she awoke, Uyeni found herself in a small cozy hut. The smell of herbs filled the air, and a fire crackled warmly in the corner. An old woman with kind eyes and a weathered face was tending to her. She had found Uyeni lying down lifelessly in the forest. "Rest, child," the old woman said gently. "You are safe now." The woman's name was Mama Inena, and she was a healer who lived deep in the forest, away from the prying eyes of the villagers. She had a gift, a rare ability to heal both animals and humans, a gift passed down through generations of her family. Under Mama Inena's care, Uyeni regained her strength. The old woman taught her about the healing properties of various plants and how to use them. "The forest provides all we need," she would say, her voice soft yet firm. "But it is not just the herbs that heal, child. The true healing comes from the love and intention you put into your work." As the years passed, Uyeni grew into a strong, compassionate young woman. Mama Inena became the mother she had lost, and the forest her home. But as time went on, Mama Inena's health began to fail. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and red, the old woman called Uyeni to her side. "My time is near, child," she said, her voice a mere whisper. "But before I go, I must pass on my gifts to you." Tears welled up in Uyeni's eyes. "No, Mama Inena, don't leave me. Let me heal you." Mama Inena smiled weakly and shook her head. "No gift can change God's plan, my dear. My journey is ending, but yours is just beginning. Use this gift to help those in need, but remember, healing is more than just curing wounds. It is about giving hope, comfort, and love." With those words, Mama Inena placed her hand over Uyeni's heart and passed on her gift. The old woman's hand fell to her side and her breath became still. Uyeni wept for the loss of the woman who had become her mother, but she knew she had a purpose now. She buried Mama Uyeni beneath a large ancient tree, marking the spot with flowers. Uyeni had lived in the forest for many years, becoming a part of its rhythm, its secrets, and its silences. She moved with grace and purpose, her heart aligned with the healing gift Mama Inena had bestowed upon her. Yet, there was a part of her that longed for human connection, a part she kept buried deep within. One day, as Uyeni was gathering herbs by a small stream, she heard a faint cry. It was the sound of a child, weak and desperate. Her heart quickened as she followed the sound, her instincts guiding her through the thick underbrush. There, lying beneath a large tree, was a young boy, barely conscious, his body covered in cuts and bruises. His breathing was shallow, and blood stained his torn clothes. Uyeni knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she examined his wounds. "What happened to you, little one?" she whispered, though she knew he could not answer. The boy's eyes fluttered open, and he stared at Uyeni with a mix of fear and hope. "Help me," he managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. "I will, child," Uyeni replied, her voice firm yet gentle. "You are safe now." Uyeni quickly gathered herbs and began to treat the boy's wounds, using the skills Mama Inena had taught her. She walked through the night, her hands moving with precision and care. As she applied the healing balms and whispered prayers, the boy's breathing steadied, and his color began to return. For days, Uyeni cared for him, never leaving his side. She fed him broth made from wild plants and kept him warm by the fire. Slowly, the boy regained his strength, and as he did, he began to speak. "My name is Emeka," I told her, his voice still weak but growing stronger each day. "My father, he is the chief of Obajana." Uyeni's heart skipped a beat. The boy she had saved was the only son of the village chief, a child whose loss would have devastated the entire kingdom. "How did you come to be here, Emeka?" Uyeni asked, her curiosity piqued. "I was playing near the edge of the forest," Emeka explained, his eyes filling with tears. "I wandered too far and then something attacked me. I don't remember what, but I ran and got lost. I thought I was going to die." Uyeni placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You are brave, Emeka. The forest can be a dangerous place, but it has also saved you." As Emeka grew stronger, Uyeni knew it was time to return him to the village. She fashioned a small stretcher from branches and vines, and with Emeka resting on it, she began the journey back to Obajana. The villagers were in a state of panic when Uyeni arrived. They had been searching for Emeka for days, fearing the worst. When they saw Uyeni emerging from the forest with the boy, gasps of astonishment and relief filled the air. "Is it really him?" one of the villagers cried, rushing forward. "Emeka is alive!" The village chief, a tall man with a stern face and a heart burdened with worry, pushed through the crowds. His eyes widened in disbelief as he saw his son, alive and well. "Emeka!" he shouted, his voice breaking with emotion. He knelt beside Uyeni, tears streaming down his face. "Thank the gods you are safe." Emeka smiled weakly at his father. "Papa, this woman saved me." The chief looked up at Uyeni, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. "My name is Uyeni," she replied, her voice steady but soft. "I found your son in the forest. He was wounded, but he will soon recover." The chief's eyes widened further. As he recognized the name. "Uyeni, the daughter of Okon and Ejiro?" he asked. Uyeni nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "Yes, it is I." The villagers murmured among themselves. They thought Uyeni had died, according to the tale our aunt told. Their voices a mix of awe and curiosity. The chief stood, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. "You saved my son's life," he said, his voice filled with respect. "I owe you a debt I can never repay." Uyeni shook her head. "There is no debt, chief. I did what I was taught to do. Your son needed help, and I provided it." The chief bowed his head. "Even so, you have returned the gifts to this village. Please, Uyeni, will you stay with us? Obajana needs someone like you. The land has been suffering. Our crops are failing, and the rain has stopped. We need a healer, someone who can help us through these dark times." Uyeni looked around at the faces of the villagers, seeing the desperation and hope in their eyes. She had spent so many years in the forest, away from the world, but now she felt a pull, a calling to return to her roots. "I will stay," Uyeni said after a moment of silence. "But first, let me see your land." The villagers led Uyeni to the fields, which were dry and cracked, the crops withered and brown. The air was heavy with the scent of despair. Uyeni knelt on the parched earth, closing her eyes as she placed her hands on the ground. She whispered a prayer, calling upon the spirits of the forest and the ancestors to bring life back to the land. Then she bent down and kissed the earth. For a moment there was only silence. Then a distant rumble echoed through the sky. The villagers looked up, and for the first time in a long time, they were astonished to see dark clouds begin to gather. Within minutes, the heavens opened and rain poured down, soaking the earth. The villagers cried in joy, dancing in the rain. The drought had ended, and hope was restored. Uyeni watched the scene with a smile, her heart swelling with the knowledge that she had brought life back to the village, but there was still more to be done. As the rain continued to fall, a terrified voice called out, "Dr. Uyeni, are you there?" Uyeni rustled to leave her mat as she looked out her window. It was most definitely midnight. The moon was out, casting a silvery glow over the village. "Who is it?" she called, sleep evident in her voice. As she moved to open the door, making sure to hold an umbrella laying around for protection. As she opened the door, she was shocked to see Bode, the quiet fisherman whose stern face contradicted his gentle soul. His wife laying on the ground. "What is it? What is wrong?" Uyeni asked immediately, alarmed at seeing Bode's pregnant wife. "She's in labor," Bode cried, his voice trembling with fear. "I'm not a midwife," Uyeni responded. But before she could continue, Bode held her hands, his grip tight with desperation. "I will pay anything. Please, save her and the child," he pleaded. "The midwife says only one will survive." Maybe it was his words, the tears, or the fact she needed sleep. But Uyeni ushered them in. "Go out, Bode," Uyeni yelled after seeing blood trickle from Bode's wife's legs. "Are you sure?" Bode asked, worry evident in his voice. "Yes, now, go," Uyeni yelled, locking the door after her. Bode. His wife seemed to be losing consciousness, her breath coming in short labored gaps. Uyeni raised her hands to the heavens, her heart filled with a silent plea. "Please heal this woman and her child through me," she prayed quietly. After a moment, she kissed the belly of the woman and brushed her lips on the unconscious woman's forehead. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. Uyeni rushed to the window and called out, "Bode, call the midwife now!" As soon as the midwife arrived, cries of the baby could be heard from Uyeni's hut. Relief washed over the room, as Bode's wife weakly whispered, "Thank you so much." Bode knelt before Uyeni, his eyes filled with gratitude. "No, thank the heavens," Uyeni said with a smile, "not me." "What will you name this beautiful girl?" Uyeni asked Bode and his wife. "Uyeni," they chorused as if rehearsed. This brought tears to Dr. Uyeni's eyes. She wasn't always a healer or doctor. She didn't always have the gifts, but now she knew she had found her purpose and her heart was at peace. And so, Uyeni, the healer of Obajana, the doctor who heals patients with a kiss, returned to her village, not just as an healer, but as a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience and the enduring power of love and faith. The drought had ended, new life had begun, and the village that had once shunned her family now embraced her with open arms. The end? Or maybe not. Thanks for listening to this point, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed making it. Please don't just click away. Check out my other videos. I'm sure you'll find something you like. If your post notification icon isn't turned on, please turn it on to be notified when I post a new video. And as always, I'll see you in my next video. Bye, besties!